We are living in some interesting times. More and more people are starting to speak some hard truths. Today, we will listen to a white man speaking lots of truth to his fellow white community. Let's take a listen to this.
The United States government didn't stop killing black leaders because they had some moral awakening. They stopped because they didn't need to anymore. Once they wiped out the radicals, Malcolm, MLK, Fred Hampton, all of them, the revolution got cut off at the knees. After that, why waste a bullet when you can just kill a movement before it even starts? By the 80s, they swapped out black power for black profit. They handed out a few golden tickets, made sure there were just enough rich and famous black faces to sell the idea that the system works. Instead of liberation, they handed out contracts, endorsements, executive positions. Instead of black power, they gave them black excellence. And look, ain't nobody saying black folks shouldn't be successful. But success inside the system is not the same as dismantling it. They let a few through the gates just as long as they played by the rules. And those rules, stay in line. Talk about personal success, not collective struggle. Build a brand, not a movement. They don't got to assassinate anyone when they can just buy them out. Or better yet, turn them into a joke. Look at what they did to Colin Kaepernick. Stood up for something, got blackballed out of the league. Angela Davis spent decades on FBI watch lists. Fred Hampton, they learned their lesson from him. Don't let him get big enough to matter in the first place. So now they just lock them up before they can get too loud. Call them terrorists, call them extremists, turn them into a headline, a mugshot, a social media circus. And for the rest, they dangle the American dream in front of them like a carrot. Work hard, climb the ladder, keep your head down, but for whose dream? Black median wealth is projected to be zero by 2053. They never fixed redlining, they just rebranded it as gentrification. They never ended Jim Crow, they just turned it into mass incarceration. More black men in prison today than there were enslaved in 1860. That ain't a coincidence, that is by design. But the thing is, this ain't just about race. Yeah, black folks got the worst of it, but they ain't the only ones caught in this machine. They keep everybody distracted. Working class whites, Latinos, immigrants, poor folks of every shade, fighting each other while the real power stays untouched. They convinced half the country that a CEO with their skin color is their ally, while their own neighbor is the enemy. Divide and conquer, same as always. So the real question ain't what happened to the movement, it's how do we bring it back? Because if they don't have to kill revolutionaries anymore, that means we already lost once. And winning again? That ain't gonna look comfortable. It ain't gonna look polite. The next wave of revolutionaries are gonna seem too much at first. Too radical, too angry, too unwilling to compromise. But that's the only way to go forward. The civil rights movement was called extreme in its time. The labor movement was called un-American. Every fight for freedom has been smeared before it's been won. So what's it going to take? Because if history's got anything to teach us, it's that nothing changes till people get real uncomfortable. The system don't break itself. The question is, are we ready to break it?
America is a land built on blood, on the sweat and suffering of the people it has enslaved, displaced, and silenced. But tell that truth today, and they call it divisive. They call it unpatriotic. They want you to believe that history is just a collection of dates and figures, stripped of the brutality, the deception, the theft. They tell you the Trail of Tears was just relocation, that the Colfax Massacre, Wilmington Coup and Massacre, Rosewood Massacre, Atlanta Race Massacre, Ocoee Massacre, Tulsa Massacre, Harlem Race Massacres of 1943 and 1964 was just riots, and that Jim Crow was merely a setback. What they refuse to admit is that America was never a nation of freedom. It was a nation of conquest, built on white supremacy, and it has never stopped being one. And that is why they are so desperate to erase the past. You see, history, real history, has power. It reveals the truth of this nation, of what was done and what is still being done. They call it critical race theory today, but it's just the truth, and that's why they fight so hard to bury it. From school boards banning books, to politicians scrubbing slavery from textbooks, to social media platforms silencing voices that dare speak honestly about America's past. White supremacy is culturally ingrained into every aspect of white society, in the home, school, religion, and politics. But tell me, what does it say about a people who fear history? It says they know their hands are bloody, and they are terrified that their children will ask them why. Because the truth would destroy their illusion of innocence. The same way it did when the world saw Black Wall Street burn. The same way it did when Jim Crow's chains were exposed for what they were. The same way it did when the Southern strategy was revealed as a blueprint for racial control, not democracy. But America has always had a strategy. Slave patrols became the police. Redlining became modern real estate steering. The plantation became the prison. And now, they want to act like none of it happened. They want to rewrite history to keep future generations obedient, ignorant, docile. And yet, what they don't understand is that you cannot erase pain. You cannot erase memory. You cannot erase the reality of people who have suffered and endured. This nation made laws to steal land from Native people. The Homestead Act gave free land to whites while barring Black freedmen Americans from ownership. The Immigration Act of 1924 made sure America remained a white country, closing its doors to those it deemed unfit. And when we, Black freedmen Americans, dared to build wealth, dared to thrive, they sent mobs, they sent bombs, they sent laws disguised as justice to tear down Black freedmen Americans' communities. And it wasn't enough for them to unalive us. They had to erase us. They built highways through our neighborhoods, turning communities into ghettos. They passed California Proposition 14 to uphold segregation. They used COINTELPRO to assassinate Black leaders. They used the daughters of Confederates to put Confederate statues in our faces, not in 1865, but during the Civil Rights Movement, as a warning, as a message. And still, they want us to believe in their version of America, an America where slavery was a misunderstanding, where the Tuskegee experiment was a footnote, where mass incarceration is just an accident? No, sir. No, ma'am. White supremacy is in the bones of this country, in the schools, the churches, the homes, the politics. It is a disease, and they refuse to cure it. But there is something they should fear more than the truth being known. They should fear what happens when the next generation realizes they have been lied to. What happens when young people of all colors understand that history was stolen from them, that their textbooks were propaganda, that their teachers were ordered to deceive. A people who know they have been deceived do not trust, and a people who do not trust begin to question everything. That is what America fears most. Not the past, but the reckoning it demands. And that reckoning is coming. No matter how many books they ban, no matter how many voices they silence, no matter how many lies they tell, truth is like a flame. It spreads. And once it touches the people, it cannot be extinguished. The question is not whether America will reckon with its past. The question is whether America will survive what it has done. Need more people like this man who has the fearlessness to speak truth to power. Tell me what you think about this topic. Hope you find the information in this video informative. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment. Thanks for watching.